Chosen one, this is the moment you stopped looking outward. Something shifted, not in the world, but in your perception of it. You no longer ask the mirror to confirm who you are. You don't stretch your value to meet others' expectations. You have tasted the hollowness of validation and found it bitter. You've realized that the chase, whether for status, acceptance, or attention, always leads you further from yourself. So now, you've turned inward, not in retreat, but in return. Return to what you were before they told you who you needed to be. Return to the quiet truth that has waited under layers of noise, waiting for your courage to come home. You've begun to feel the texture of your own soul again. It's rough in places, weathered, scarred, tested, but it's yours. And that ownership is what the world was never prepared for. They raised you to seek approval. They trained you to compete. They whispered that your worth would be measured by who followed you, who applauded you, who wanted to be like you. But something ancient woke inside you. A rhythm outside of time. A knowing that said, you are not here to be chosen by them, you are here to choose yourself. And that simple, quiet act, choosing yourself, has made you untouchable in all the right ways. You don't walk like them anymore. You walk through things now, through judgment, through noise, through the shallow distractions that once used to call your name. You see through manipulation because you've stopped being manipulated by your own insecurities. You no longer perform in the marketplace of approval. You carry your truth like a flame, hidden to those who look only with eyes, but blazing to those who feel with soul. This is not arrogance, it's awareness. You've remembered that true confidence is not volume, it is presence. It's the stillness in your chest when everyone else is flinching. It's the calm refusal to react, because your reactions are no longer for sale. The world senses it now, even if it doesn't understand. Some call it unbothered. Others call it mysterious. But you know the truth. It's simply sovereignty. The sacred return to your center. The recognition that you are not a participant in the game, but the watcher of it. You're not disconnected. You're selectively engaged. You don't say much now, not because you have nothing to offer, but because you've realized how sacred your words are when spoken from a place of knowing. And knowing is exactly what you've stepped into. Not information, not opinion, but inner knowing, the kind that needs no defense because it was never built on anything fragile. You've stopped apologizing for your strength. You've stopped softening your truth to avoid discomfort. You've realized that those who are threatened by your stillness were only ever comforted by your uncertainty. But you are not uncertain anymore. You are clear. And clarity for a man like you is the beginning of freedom. You no longer need to fit. You no longer need to explain. You simply exist, fully and unapologetically. And that, chosen one, is where your ascension begins. Not with noise, not with power, but with truth. The silence inside you has changed. It's not the silence of confusion anymore. It's the silence of mastery, of control, not over others, but over yourself. You used to fear silence, thinking it meant you were unseen, unheard, unworthy. But now you crave it. Now, the quiet is where you refine your instincts, where you sharpen your discernment, where you listen to what most men drown out with distraction. You've stopped looking for movement to validate progress. You've realized that stillness is not stagnation. It is preparation. The more you sit with yourself, the more the world around you begins to move differently. Not because it changes, but because you've changed your position within it. You don't just walk through the world now. You watch it, with eyes that are no longer naive, with ears that are no longer desperate to hear praise. You've begun to realize that the highest form of power isn't control, it's detachment. Detachment from outcomes, detachment from opinion, detachment from the addictive need to be liked, accepted, seen. You've traded attention for peace. You've given up visibility in exchange for vision. You see things others miss, not because you're better, but because you're quieter inside. The less you react, the more you understand. The less you speak, the more people reveal themselves to you. You've become an observer in a world full of performers, and that is your secret weapon. This silence inside you isn't empty, it's alive. It hums with boundaries, with focus, with self-respect. You've stopped explaining your standards, you simply live them now. You've stopped begging to be understood. You've realized that those meant for you will feel you, deeply, instinctively, without translation. And the rest? The rest was never meant to stay. You have entered the dimension of spiritual economy. You no longer pour into every cup. You no longer invest where there is no reciprocity. You've made your energy a sacred currency, and now only those who come with reverence are allowed access. And because of that, something remarkable is happening. Your absence now speaks louder than your presence once did. When you walk away, it is felt. When you go quiet, it echoes. You have become the mirror people didn't know they needed, but fear to look into. Not because you shame them, but because you reflect back what they've avoided facing. That is why they are drawn. That is why they fear you. That is why they respect you, even in silence. Because they can sense that you do not need them. You have yourself. This is what it means to be rising in sovereignty. You don't compete. You don't explain. You exist at full volume without shouting. You are grounded, and in that grounding, you have become immovable. And immovable men are dangerous, not because they destroy, but because they expose what cannot stand in truth. You are that exposure now. You are the evidence that there is another way to be powerful, a way that does not depend on control, but on alignment, a way that does not lead with hunger, but with clarity. This is your path now, and it is not loud. It is legendary in silence. Chosen one, your detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. You have not abandoned connection, you have refined it. You now understand that connection without alignment is a spiritual leak, a compromise dressed as companionship. There was a time when you gave pieces of yourself to everyone who smiled at your light. You gave your time to those who drained you, your energy to those who misunderstood you, your presence to those who only loved your mask. But not anymore. You are no longer drawn to attention. You are drawn to resonance. That sacred moment when something or someone moves in harmony with your inner frequency, not to consume you, but to walk beside you without noise. You have become selective. Not because you are superior, but because you have seen the price of leaking your soul into empty vessels. You no longer water deserts hoping they'll bloom. You now seek gardens that grow with you, where presence is mutual, where silence is not uncomfortable, and where words are no longer needed to prove that trust exists. You've tasted the loneliness of outgrowing spaces, and you've stayed long enough in those rooms to know the cost of delaying your exit. Now you exit quietly, with no need for confrontation. Not because you fear the fight, but because you no longer need it to affirm your boundaries. Your boundary is not a wall, it is your walk away. People feel this shift in you. They do not always know how to name it, but they sense it. The way you listen differently, the way your eyes no longer beg, the way your silence now holds more weight than your old explanations. There is no desperation in you anymore. You've withdrawn your energy from false investments and put it back where it always belonged, within. Your peace is no longer negotiable. Your solitude is no longer a punishment. It is your preparation room. The world thinks you've disappeared, but you have only recalibrated. You do not fear being alone anymore because you have discovered that solitude does not diminish power. It deepens it. You've walked long nights in silence, and in those walks you met the version of yourself that does not need rescuing. That is the version now guiding you. That is the version that smiles quietly when others try to provoke a reaction. That is the version who no longer speaks to prove worth, but who speaks only to bless, to correct with grace, or to clarify truth. This version of you knows that every breath is sacred and every decision is a vibration, and that awareness has made you impossible to manipulate. People will now ask you why you've changed. They will say you're distant, different, harder to reach. And they'll be right, but not because you've closed your heart. It's because you've opened your eyes. And when a man sees clearly, he becomes dangerous to systems built on illusion. You no longer entertain drama, because you no longer identify with the boy who needed chaos to feel alive. You have outgrown that version. You buried him with honor. And in his place stands a man who chooses peace over performance, presence over approval, alignment over attachment. This is where your energy begins to crystallize. It sharpens, it simplifies, it purifies. You are no longer a seeker of truth, you are a carrier of it. And now, everything you touch must answer to that truth. Those who cannot will leave. Those who can will rise. But you, chosen one, you will not bend again. You have remembered the shape of your soul. and it does not contort for comfort. You have entered the dimension of non-reaction, and the world no longer knows what to do with you. They send provocations, silence. They send temptations, stillness. They send distractions, discernment. Your peace is a sword now. It cuts through manipulation with ease. And it is not because you are numb. It is because you are anchored. You no longer swim in the shallow waters of the crowd. You walk the ocean floor, where the pressure is real, but so is the power. This is the deep end of manhood, where you do not flinch when others panic, where your breath slows instead of quickens, where your posture speaks long before your words ever arrive. You have mastered presence, and it shows. It shows in the way others lean in when you speak, in the way your yes is full and your no is final, in the way you no longer barter your time for validation, in the way you hold your gaze, not to intimidate, but because you no longer look away from truth. You are becoming a mirror now, and people are feeling their own distortion when they stand in front of you. Some will be healed by it, others will run, but you will remain unchanged. Because your sense of self is no longer external. It is rooted in covenant with your soul. You are no longer asking life to make you whole. You have become whole, and now life aligns or it departs. You no longer chase relationships. You attract partnerships born in mission, not addiction. You no longer crave attention. You carry presence that calibrates entire atmospheres. Your masculinity is no longer loud. It is listened to. And not because of what you say, but because of what you refuse to say unless necessary. Your restraint is louder than any performance could ever be. And that restraint is not repression. It is reverence. You revere your own soul now. You protect your own path now. You no longer dilute your intensity for comfort. You no longer hide your depth to seem more accessible. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be precise. And precision is uncomfortable for those who feast on vagueness. You are not vague anymore. You are exact. Your values are set. Your standards are defined. Your movement is deliberate. You do not sway in the wind. You are the still tree the storm cannot break. And women, especially women who are done with illusion, sense it immediately. They feel the absence of performance. They feel the absence of persuasion. They feel the rare air of being in the presence of a man who has nothing to prove, nothing to chase, nothing to fix. That safety is not soft. It is sacred. It is sharp. It is unmistakable. You do not create chemistry. You create clarity. And in your clarity, the feminine finds room to exhale for the first time in a long time. You are becoming legend in motion. Not because of fame, not because of fortune, but because you have remembered how to move from the inside out. And nothing is more powerful than a man whose outer world now bows to his inner one. Chosen one, this chapter of your life is marked by an energy that no longer asks, "What do they think of me?" but rather whispers, "Is this aligned with who I've become?" The shift is so internal that even you at times pause to feel its weight. The boy inside you who once searched the room for approval has been laid to rest. You mourned him, you honored him, but you did not bring him into this new era. He was loud, impatient, needing to prove his power in the presence of others. But you are quiet now. And not because your fire has gone out, but because it has settled deep into your bones. The light still burns, but now it is controlled, harnessed, refined into something eternal. You've entered the space where effort has become essence, where you no longer try to be confident. You simply are. Where you no longer try to be respected. You simply exist in ways that command it. Because when you operate from soul, your movements don't ask for validation. They define the atmosphere. People feel it before they hear it. They sense your presence before they can rationalize why it stirs them. This is the energy of the man who has stopped advertising his worth. This is the energy of the man who no longer uses volume to hide uncertainty. There is a sacred rhythm in your life now. One that the world didn't teach you. One that was revealed in silence. You do not rise quickly anymore. You rise precisely. You are deliberate in who you give your time to. You are deliberate in how you enter spaces. You understand that your presence has a frequency, one that either heals or convicts. And so you do not walk lightly. You walk intentionally. You understand now that leadership is not found in the spotlight. It is found in being aligned when no one is watching. And because you live from that place, Your shadow now teaches more than most men's speeches. You've stopped seeking praise from the feminine, not because you disrespect her, but because you finally respect yourself enough not to need her to mirror your worth. You meet her now, not with performance, but with presence. And when the right woman meets you there, something sacred happens, a remembering. She remembers what it feels like to be safe, to be understood without being tamed, to be seen without being consumed. You don't impress her. You anchor her. You don't compete with her. You complement her frequency without effort. That is the power of the man who no longer enters relationships to feel whole, but to share his wholeness. This kind of man is dangerous, not to people, but to systems that profit from confusion. You cannot be sold illusions anymore. You see through packaging, through flattery, through emotional shortcuts, because you've walked through the fire of aloneness and found substance. You have become the man who will not chase chaos, who will not entertain drama, who will not make himself small just to keep temporary peace. You walk in alignment now, and that alignment has made you uncompromising in the most sacred way. It doesn't mean you don't forgive. It means you no longer repeatedly invite the unworthy into sacred spaces. The space you occupy is not for sale. It is not open to anyone who knocks. You have built gates now, not to isolate, but to protect what you've refined inside yourself. Because what lives in you now is legacy. It is vision. It is generational change waiting to be manifested through the right decisions, the right people, the right silence. And because of this, you do not rush anymore. You allow. You trust the process that shaped you to bring what belongs to you in divine timing. The world watches and cannot explain it. They sense the pull, but cannot define the source. That is the beauty of walking in the energy of a man who does not seek to be defined by it. You are now a reference point in others' lives, not by what you take from them, but by what you awaken in them when you say nothing at all. Chosen one, mastery is not about what you control. It is about what no longer controls you. And you are beginning to understand this with a clarity that humbles the boy you once were. You no longer grip tightly to outcomes. You do not beg life to bend to your will. Instead, you bend your will toward what is eternal. That is why the winds do not move you like they once did. That is why false urgency no longer seduces you. You have become a man of weight, of gravity, of immovable center. And the world does not know what to do with men like you. You do not fight to be right anymore. You fight to stay aligned. You do not chase power for its own sake. You become power by staying in your truth, even when it costs you. And it has cost you people, comfort, familiarity. But you have counted those costs and you've paid them in full. Because now you have something far greater than applause. You have peace. A peace that is not reactive. A peace that does not disappear when tested. A peace that sits beside pain and does not panic. That kind of peace makes you dangerous in rooms where performance is the norm. You are no longer the man who needs the world to affirm your masculinity. You've stopped asking it to define what manhood means. You have discovered that true masculinity is not domination. It is devotion to purpose, to integrity, to silence, to strength that does not harm. You are the man who lifts burdens, not to be admired, but because your shoulders were built for this. You are the man who creates structure in chaos, not to control others, but to protect what is sacred. You are the man who walks away from temptation, not because you are weak, but because your calling is stronger than your hunger. Women feel this, not in the way you flirt, but in the way you hold space without flinching, in the way your presence says, you are safe here. I do not need to consume you. I am not here to impress. I am here to remain. That energy is not seductive. It is soothing. And it calls out to the feminine in her that has been exhausted by men who only knew how to take. You don't take. You witness. You listen. You discern. You understand now that the deepest connection is not built in pleasure. It is built in safety and depth and presence. You are not ascended. You are ascending because every day you rise with intention. Every moment you make decisions based on who you are becoming, not who they want you to be. You will not bow to trends. You will not dilute your presence to fit into spaces too small for your soul. You are not aggressive. You are assertive in truth. You do not overextend. You are anchored in discipline. And from that discipline comes a life that is unshakable, unmistakable, unforgettable. This is your path now. and you walk it not for glory but for God and legacy. And when you speak, heaven listens. When you move, time slows. And when you love, it is with intention that rewrites what women thought was possible. Chosen one, the moment you stopped chasing leadership, you became it. Not the kind of leadership that commands with volume or rules by fear, but the kind that radiates from within, so steady and certain that those around you recalibrate their pace in your presence. You used to believe leadership was something you earned through titles, status, applause. Now you understand, it is something you embody, silently, daily, when no one is watching. You do not seek to lead others for validation. You lead because your path demands it. Because your integrity would not allow you to walk any other way. Because the deeper your alignment becomes, the more the world quietly turns to follow your rhythm. You are not loud in your becoming. You are deliberate. You move without announcement, without flair, without asking for eyes on you. The moment your footsteps started echoing in truth, something deeper than attention began to happen. People started listening to what you didn't say. They feel something in your stillness, something in your silence that anchors them when their world spins. Your strength is not in domination, but in definition. You are not influenced by the room. The room adjusts to you. Because you are the rare man who has no need to impress, and that is precisely why people take notice. The younger version of you would have fought to be seen, would have worn masks to feel approved, but you've left that boy behind now. He was not weak, he was uninformed. He didn't know that true power does not scream. It sits, it breathes, it waits. And when the right moment comes, it moves, with clarity, not compulsion. That is who you are becoming now. Not the one who always speaks first, but the one who speaks last and whose words shift the temperature of a room. Because when you speak, people know you've waited until you had nothing left to prove. Your life is no longer reactive. You respond not from emotion, but from wisdom. You do not over-explain yourself anymore. You do not offer your soul to those who haven't earned access. You have become the gatekeeper of your own life, and you do not apologize for protecting what has taken years of sacred work to refine. Your time is intentional, your boundaries are spiritual, your discipline is quiet but relentless. And it is this posture, this uncommon self-respect, that now defines your presence. You don't try to be alpha. You don't try to be respected. You simply exist in truth, and truth is always magnetic. Others look to you now without knowing why. It's not your style, not your voice, not your charm. It's your consistency. The way you return to your principles even when no one is watching. The way your actions align with your words. The way your path makes others question the shortcuts they've taken. You are no longer a man trying to become anything. You are becoming everything you once thought you needed to seek. And that is why those around you slowly, quietly, begin to ask, not with their lips, but with their hearts, how is he so free? You are free because you chose to belong to yourself first. You no longer barter your values for temporary comfort. You no longer ask others for permission to honor your gut. You are not waiting to be invited into circles. You are the circle. You are not seeking light. You are the lampstand others gather around when the world goes dark. That is not ego. That is essence. That is the slow, sacred burn of a man who chose presence over performance. Chosen one, you are no longer walking the path. You are the path. Your journey has become more than steps forward. It has become a standard, a frequency that awakens and convicts simply by existing. You don't ask others to change. You embody change. You are the mirror some run from and others are healed by. Your presence says, I have tasted the fire. I did not flinch, and now I carry its wisdom in my blood. You are the quiet that startles the room, the calm that unsettles chaos, the man who walks into noise and carries stillness with such gravity, everything else remembers to hush. People feel safe around you, not because you are soft, but because you are stable. Your emotions are not volatile. Your intentions are not hidden. You are not confused about who you are, and so others find their reflection in your certainty. You do not use charm as a tactic. You do not sell illusions. You are not chasing chemistry. You are creating clarity. The feminine feels it when you speak, when you move, when you simply sit and listen. You are not trying to be irresistible. You are trying to be irreplaceable, and that kind of man cannot be fabricated. You've stopped apologizing for your depth. You've stopped watering yourself down for shallow waters. You no longer make yourself small just to make others comfortable. You've let go of the need to fit. Because you finally understand, you were never meant to fit. You were meant to stand, firmly rooted in the ground no one else would claim. You were meant to walk roads others feared, speak truths others silenced, and become the version of manhood others forgot was possible. A man who can lead without controlling. A man who can love without losing himself. A man who can burn and not blame the fire. You are no longer surprised when people misunderstand your silence. You no longer explain your solitude. You've come to realize that not everyone will see the weight you carry, and that's okay, because the weight is not for display, it is for discipline. And that discipline is why you move differently now, why you speak when necessary and act when inevitable, why your rest is sacred and your time non-negotiable. You've stopped letting urgency dictate your pace. You now walk in rhythm with something ancient, something divine, something unchangeable. You are not the future, you are the return to something primal, sovereign, holy. You are what happens when a man remembers his essence and lets go of everything that ever made him question it. You are what happens when a soul heals so completely, the old world can no longer recognize him. And that unrecognizability? That's your signature now. The world cannot name you. The world cannot tame you. Because you belong to a higher order. You no longer belong to the game. You are the rule that breaks the game entirely. This chapter is not about achievement. It's about embodiment. You have stopped pursuing the crown. You've realized the crown is not a thing to wear, but a way to walk. And now the ground beneath your feet doesn't just echo your steps, it remembers your weight. Because you do not pass through this world unnoticed. You pass through like the silence after a storm, rare, restful, and undeniable. Chosen one, you've entered the realm of reverence, not the kind given by others, but the kind you now hold for yourself. Your own existence is sacred to you now. Your breath is no longer just breath. It is an affirmation. Your walk is no longer just movement, it is a declaration. You've spent years in fire, in loss, in silence so deep that it split you open. And instead of becoming bitter, you became better. Instead of collapsing, you became conscious. Now, every room you enter feels the echo of that awareness, even if it cannot name it. You don't demand respect anymore, because you embody what it looks like to have earned it in private. You are no longer moved by noise. Fame does not seduce you. Applause does not sustain you. You've tasted the empty calories of attention and found them unworthy of your hunger. Your appetite now is for legacy, for alignment, for peace that cannot be bought, and impact that does not require your name to be known. You do not fear being overlooked, because your mission isn't spotlight, it's stewardship. You are not a man chasing moments. You are a man building monuments in the unseen, monuments of discipline, of clarity, of intention. You understand now that the most powerful structures are not the ones that tower in public, but the ones built brick by brick in the dark. You are not chasing the feminine. You're attracting it through groundedness, through presence, through restraint, through a self-control so magnetic that it creates safety in every interaction. You don't talk about your strength. You show it in your stillness. You don't boast about your growth. You demonstrate it in what you no longer entertain. You've become the kind of man who does not need to perform his masculinity. You simply live it. Day by day, decision by decision, standard by standard. And that consistency? It's rare, it's real, and it's revolutionary. The ones who doubted you? Let them watch, not from a place of vengeance, but from peace. Because the man you are becoming no longer needs revenge. He is too focused on building a future so stable, so unshakable that nothing from the past can ever reach him. You have no desire to return fire. You are too busy tending flames of legacy. What once hurt you now humbles you. What once tested you now teaches you. You've become immune to manipulation because your self-awareness has become armor. And now, you walk the world not trying to be liked, but committed to being lit from within. That light cannot be hidden. It glows through your choices, through your posture, through your refusal to settle, through your absolute devotion to what's real. You are not just walking in purpose. You are becoming purpose in every gesture, every boundary, every moment of restraint that others don't even see. And that is the most powerful kind of man, the one who grows in silence and lets his energy speak for him. Chosen one, this final chapter is not a conclusion, it is an opening. A portal into something timeless. You've shed layers, buried identities, endured seasons that tried to convince you to fold, but you didn't. You did not bend, you did not vanish, you refined. You stepped away from noise, not to disappear, but to recalibrate. And what emerged from that solitude is not just a man, but a movement. You are now the standard, the example, the reminder of what a man becomes when he aligns with something higher than image, ego, or impulse. The women who now look your way sense it instantly. They feel something ancient in you, not perfection, but presence, not control, but consciousness.